Hello everyone, welcome back to this space. I'm Rafiat. Today we'll be talking about the third element of cost accounting, which is accounting for overhead. In our previous videos, we mentioned that there are three elements of cost accounting. We have the material costing, the labor costing, and today we'll be talking about the third one, which is accounting for overhead. Overhead generally is the aggregate of the total indirect costs incurred by a firm in the production process, and these indirect costs consist of indirect labor, indirect material, and indirect expenses. Overhead can be classified into three. We have the production overhead, selling and distribution overhead, and also have the administrative overhead. In accounting for overhead, we have what we call absorption costing. Absorption costing is a method of accounting for overhead. So basically, it is a method of sharing out the overhead costs incurred during the production process among the total units produced. In accounting for overhead under absorption costing, we have three methods for absorbing costs. That means we have three methods for absorbing overheads incurred in the firm. The first one is the overhead apportionment method, and the second one is the overhead allocation method, while the third one is overhead absorption method. In this video, we're talking about the first two methods, which is the overhead allocation method and the overhead apportionment method. And in the subsequent videos, we'll be talking about the remaining methods also. So we'll move on to the first method, which is the overhead allocation method. So overhead allocation method is the allocation of the overhead cost to a particular cost center without sharing it. In essence, what I mean is that under the allocation method, the overhead cost incurred is basically incurred for a particular department or a particular unit of production. So we don't share that type of cost, we only allocate it to that particular department alone. I'll move on to the second method, which is the apportionment method. Overhead apportionment method is the process whereby costs are shared among cost centers or departments or cost units using a fair basis of apportionment. Yes, it is shared among cost centers using a fair basis of apportionment. Okay, as displayed on the screen, we have some particular types of overhead costs and their basis of apportionment. We have rents, rates, depreciation, insurance of a building, repairs, heating, and also lighting. This particular set of overhead costs can be shared among cost centers using the floor space area occupied by each of the cost centers in the organization. Move on to the second type of overhead cost, which is the depreciation of the equipment and also insurance of an equipment. This can be shared among cost centers using the book value of the equipment in question. We have the third one, which is the personnel office, canteen, welfare, wages, aids. This can be shared among cost centers using the number of employees available in each cost center or cost unit or department in the organization. The fourth one, we have power and electricity. This can be shared among cost centers based on the number of kilowatts generated by each department or cost centers or horsepower instead, whichever one is given in the question we have. And we also have service centers. The first part listed are used for production cost centers, while the overhead costs incurred in service cost center include maintenance. Let's say maintenance. The basis of apportionment for maintenance can be the hour of maintenance work done for each cost center or each department in the production unit. And we also have the production planning, which can be shared among cost centers using the direct labor hour worked in each production cost center. Having explained what overhead means, what it considers, the total indirect costs, which are the indirect material, indirect expenses, and the indirect labor. We also mentioned the three classifications of overheads, that is the production overhead, the administration overhead, and also the selling and distribution overhead. We also mentioned absorption costing and the methods of absorption costing. We mentioned that there are three methods of absorption costing, which is the overhead apportionment method, overhead allocation method, and the overhead absorption method. We discussed and explained the meaning of overhead allocation method and overhead absorption method. So now I'll be solving an example on each of the two methods explained earlier, that is the overhead apportionment method and the overhead allocation method. Now I'll be solving questions on each of the methods explained earlier, that's the overhead allocation method and the overhead apportionment method. So we start with the first one, which is the overhead allocation method. Consider the following costs of a company. We have wages of 200, wages for department A, 200 naira, wages for department B, 150 naira, Indirect materials consumed in Department A as 15 naira. Rent of the premises shared between Department A and Department B, that's 300 naira. Then the cost accounting system includes 3 overhead cost centers, which are as follows. We have the first cost center, which is the Department A, the second cost center, which is Department B, and the third one, which is rent. Departments A and B share rent in the ratio of 2:1. So we asked, how are we to treat these costs? So here is the solution to the question. To the question displayed, we are asked to determine the cost, the total overhead cost incurred by both Department A and Department B using the overhead allocation method. So here's the solution to that. We have Department A, and we also have Department B. So naira each. So the first item in the question given is the wages. Is the wages for Department A. So we have wages. So for Department A, the wages in the question is 200 naira. So we'll put down here 200 naira. While the wages for Department B is 150 naira. The next item as given in the question is the indirect cost of materials consumed. So the indirect materials consumed. In the question, only Department A incurred an indirect material of 50 naira. So that will be the only thing recorded there. Indirect material for Department A is 50 naira, while for Department B is nil. The third item there is the rents incurred by both Department A and Department B, which is to be shared in ratio 2:1. So move down to the rents to be shared in ratio 2:1. So going back to sharing using ratios, so we have ratio 2:1. In order to allocate costs to cost centers or departments using ratios, the first thing we have to do is to sum up the ratios given. So the addition of 2 and 1 is 3. So that's 3. So the next item on the question is rents, which is shared between Department A and Department B using the ratio 2:1. So when sharing costs between departments or cost centers using ratio, the first thing we have to do is to sum up the ratio given. Okay, they said we are according to the question, we are to share the cost of 300 naira. That's the total cost for rent in the question between Department A and Department B using this ratio. So having sum of the two together, 2:1, 2 plus 1 will give us 3. 2 plus 1 will give us 3. 2 plus 1 will give us 3. So to share for Department A and Department B, this ratio means that the 2 of the total, that's 2/3. That means 2/3 of the cost incurred on rent, that's 300 naira, is for Department A, while 1/3 of the cost is for Department B. The cost incurred on rent is 300 naira. So the cost incurred on rent in the organization is 300 naira. So the cost that can be shared to Department A for rent will be 2/3 of 300 naira, and that's the cost of the rent incurred. That's 300 naira. That will give us 200. 200. While for Department B, the cost will be 1/3 of the total cost incurred on rent, and that will give us 100 naira. So for Department B, the rentage cost is 100 naira. Then we sum it up. Now, therefore, the total indirect costs incurred, let's say the total overhead incurred in Department A would be 200 plus 50 plus 200 will give us 450 naira, while the total overhead costs incurred in Department B will be 250 naira. So this is how questions is solved using the overhead allocation method. So in the next example, we solve the question using the overhead apportionment method, which will also include the one for production department and also for service departments. Okay, now on to the second method, which is the overhead apportionment method. We mentioned that this method is used to share costs. This method is used to share overhead costs incurred during the production process among cost centers, cost units, or departments using an equitable. On to the second method, which is the overhead apportionment method. When explaining the other time, we said overhead apportionment method is used to share overhead costs incurred during the production process among cost centers, cost units, and departments using a fair basis of apportionment. And we also listed some possible basis of apportionment for some particular overhead costs that can be incurred during the production process. So here is the second question to solve this particular method. So I'll display the question. The following estimated figures for 12 months are made available for a factory which has 2 production departments and a production control department. We have the rent of 28,000, depreciation of plants of 12,000, heating and lighting of 2,000, power of 5,600. We have factory administration overhead of 7,900. So the statistics in respect of the departments or cost centers are as follows. We have for departments A, departments B, and production control. For areas in square meters, we have 5,000, 4,000, 1,000 each, according to each cost center. And we have the value of plants, 30,000 naira under departments A, 30,000 naira under departments A, 20,000 naira under departments B, and nil under the production department. The number of employees in department A is 120, while the number of employees in department B is 80, and the one for production, the production control is 10. The estimated kilowatts used in department A is 2,700, while the one for department B is 2,300, and in the production control, no kilowatts is used. So we are required to prepare the overhead analysis sheet, showing how overhead costs will be apportioned to both the service departments and the production departments. On to the second question, using the second method, which is the overhead apportionment method, we are required to prepare an overhead analysis sheet. So this requires us to use a table instead. So the first thing we are going to put out there is the items given in the question. So we have the items, we have the table for the items. Roll it out. Okay. Then the first thing given in the question, the first item given in the question is rent. So write that out, rent. The second item in the question is depreciation. The third item in the question is eating. The fourth one is power, while the fourth one is factory overhead. Factory overhead. So having listed out the items given in the question, the next thing we have to put in the table will be the overhead cost, the total overhead cost incurred with respect to each of the items listed. So we have the overhead costs. Okay, now the total overhead cost for rent is 28,000 naira, while the overhead cost for depreciation is 12,000. For eating is 2,000. For power is 5,600. And for factory overhead, we have 7,900. So the next item we are to impute on the table will be the basis of apportionment we are going to use to share this cost to both departments A, departments B, and the production control. Kindly note that departments A and departments B are the production departments, while the production control department is the service department for this particular organization. So the next item here will be the basis of apportionment we have to use to share this cost to each of these cost centers. So it's out a basis of apportionment. Okay. I'll continue. Rent. If you can recall when we are trying to list the possible types of overhead and also the possible basis of apportionment for it, if you can recall, when we were explaining overhead apportionment, we listed some types of overhead costs and the possible basis of apportionment for it. So under rent, it was stated there that the possible basis of apportionment for rent should be the floor space area used by each of the departments. So in this question, we are given the area in square meters. That means the floor space area occupied by each of the departments. So the basis of apportionment for rent will be the area in square meter. Areas in square meter. So for depreciation, we also mentioned that we use the value of what is associated to it to apportion the cost. So when we were explaining the overhead apportionment method the other time, we said we mentioned insurance and depreciation for equipment. So using that, we can use the book value of the equipment. But in this question, we're given the value of plants. So when we have to calculate the depreciation for each of the departments, we have to use the value of plants as a basis of apportionment for each of the departments. So the basis of apportionment for depreciation, in particular to this question, will be the value of plants. And for eating, we have to use either the horsepower or the estimated kilowatts used by each department. So given what we have in this question is the estimated kilowatts. So what we have to use to apportion eating will be the estimated kilowatts. The same goes for power. We also use estimated kilowatt as a basis of apportionment. And for factory overhead, we use the number of employees in each of the departments to share the cost associated with factory overhead. So that's the number of employees. So now the next thing we have to input on the table will be Department A. Then we have Department B. Then we have the Service Department, which is also Production Control, as given in the question. Now we have the solution being displayed on the screen right now. So here are now we have the solution being displayed on the screen, and here is the solution and the explanation to the solution being displayed. So we have the first one we have is, okay, we've listed out the items, we listed out the overhead costs, the total overhead costs, the basis of apportionment for each of these costs to its cost centers. Then we have Department A, Department B, and the production control. So the first thing we have to explain then now is the rent. Rent has a total cost of 28,000 naira. 28,000. Rent has a total cost of 28,000, and we have to use the areas in square meters to explain. The answer to the question is being displayed on the screen right now, and the next thing we have to do now is to show the calculations and how we arrive and how we're able to share the total overhead costs among these departments using the basis of apportionment provided in the question. So the first thing we have to do now is to calculate how. So the next thing we are going to do now is to explain how we were able to share the rent cost of 28,000 naira among the cost centers using the areas in square meter as a basis of apportionment. So here's the solution right here. So for Department A is occupying 5,000 square meters, while Department B is occupying 4,000 square meters, and Department C, that's the production control, the service department, is occupying 1,000 square meters. So to share the cost of 28,000 naira among these three departments, we'll follow this. So we have 28,000 naira. The summation of the square meters incurred, the summation of the square meter occupied by the three departments is 10,000 square meters. That's 5,000 for Department A, 4,000 for department B, and 1,000 for department C. That's the production control department. So to calculate the cost, the rent cost that can be allocated or that can be apportioned to department A, that will give us for department A, we have 5,000 square meters over 10,000 square meters multiplied by the cost of rent, that's 28,000 naira. And this gives us 14,000 naira. So this is how we arrive at the 14,000 naira for department A. This is how we arrive at the 14,000 naira being written for department A under rent. So move down to department B. For department B, that will be 4,000 naira. Sorry, 4,000 square meters by 10,000 square meters. They will multiply by the cost of rent, which is 28,000 naira. And this gives us the sum of 11,200 naira. This is how we arrive at the cost as the cost for rent for department B. And for department C, that's the production control. We have 1,000 square meters over 10,000 square meters multiplied by 28,000 naira. Hence 2,800 naira. So this is how we apportion costs to each of the cost centers using the basis of apportionment of areas in square meters occupied by each of the departments. So on to the second item on the table, which is depreciation. So the next item now is depreciation. We've explained how we arrived at 14,000 naira for rent of department A and 11,200 naira for rent of department B and 2,800 naira for rent of department C. So on to the second item on the table, we have depreciation. Depreciation. And the basis of apportionment for depreciation based on this question will be the value of plants. Using value of plants. So the cost of depreciation, overhead cost for depreciation. Overhead cost for depreciation as given in this question is 12,000 naira. And since we have to use the value of plants to apportion 12,000 naira between departments A, departments B, and the production control, we list out the value of plants for each of the departments. So for departments A, the value of plants is 30,000 naira. Now for department B, the value of plants is 20,000 naira. Therefore, the total value of plants in this organization is 50,000 naira. So using value of plants as the basis for apportionment, we share this 12,000 naira between departments A and department B only. Because the reason is because, just as seen in the question, there is no plants used in department C. Therefore, there is zero value for plants in department C. So we only share the cost of 12,000 naira between department A and department B using this basis. So as usual, the way we did the first one, that's one for cost. So to get the depreciation overhead for department A. So the depreciation overhead for department A will be 30,000 naira by the total of 50,000 naira. Then multiplied by the total overhead cost for depreciation, and that is 12,000 naira, which gives us a total of 7,200 naira. So we'll move on to the second department, that's department B. For department B, the value of plants for department B is 20,000 naira. by 50,000 naira, which is the total value of plants for the organization, then multiply by the total overhead costs for depreciation, as 12,000 naira, which gives us a value of 4,800 naira. So this explains how we arrive at the 7,200 naira for depreciation under Department A and 4,800 naira for Department B under depreciation. So move on to the third item, which is eating. So here is the calculation for apportioning the cost of eating, which is 2,000 naira, between Department A and Department B. Also, under eating, the estimated number of kilowatts for Department A is 2,700, while the estimated kilowatts for Department B is 2,300. There is no kilowatts used in the production control. That's the service department. That's Department C anyways. So to calculate this, we start with the same way we did the other ones. So for Department A, we have 2,700 kilowatts by 5,000 kilowatts. Then we multiply it by the cost of eating in the organization, which is 2,000 naira. This gives us a cost of 1,080. Help us fast with our calculation. We'll move on to the second department, that's Department B. We have 2,300 kilowatts by 5,000 kilowatts by 2,000 naira, which is the cost, that's the total overhead cost for eating in the organization, which gives us 920 naira. Which is just 920 naira. So this is how we arrive at 1,080 naira as the eating cost for Department A and 920 naira as eating cost for Department B. So on to the fourth item on the table, which is power now. So on to the next one, this item on the table, which is power. So this calculation will show us how we're able to apportion 5,600 naira between Department A and Department B using the estimated number of kilowatt as the basis of apportionment. So we start now for Department A. To get all for Department A as 2,700 kilowatts by 5,000 kilowatts, we'll multiply by the total overhead cost for power as 5,600, which gives us 3,024 naira. This is the overhead cost of power for Department A. And for Department B, we have 2,300 naira by 2,300 kilowatts by 5,000 kilowatts. We'll multiply by the 5,600 naira, which is total overhead cost for eating in the organization. So you get a total of 2,576 naira, which will be apportioned to Department B as the cost for power in the organization. So 3,024 naira for Department A as the overhead cost for power, and 2,576 naira for Department B as the cost for power also. So this is the last item on the table, and that's the factory overhead. And remember we said the basis of apportionment, the possible basis of apportionment for factory overhead, that's the overhead cost in the organization as given in the one available for the question, should be the number of employees in each of the departments. So the total factory overhead in the question is 7,900. So this explains how we're able to apportion 7,900 between Department A, Department C, and the production departments. So in Department A, we have 120 employees. In Department B, we have 80 employees, and Department C, so and that's the production control, we have 10 employees. That gives a total of 210 employees. For department A, there will be 120 employees by 210 employees. That is the total employees in the organization. We will multiply by 7,900, which is the overhead costs we are trying to apportion. That's 4,514 for department A. And for department B, the number of employees for department B is 80 employees divided by the total employees in the organization, that's 210 employees, by 7,900 gives us 3,010 naira for department B. That's the cost of factory overhead. So for production departments, that's the production control department, that's the service department, we have 10 employees divided by 210 employees, that's the total employees in the organization, multiplied by 7,900 gives us 376 naira. So this is how we arrive at the figures inserted for department A as factory overhead cost, and for department B as factory overhead cost, and also the same for the production department. So when we sum up all of these costs together, the total cost for department A and for department B and for the production control, we arrive at 29,818 naira for department A, and the total overhead cost for department B gives us 22,506 naira, while the total overhead cost for the production control, which is the same thing as the service department, gives us 3,176 naira. So this will be the end of this particular session. So in this session, we discussed what overhead is, the elements of overhead, the three classifications of overhead, which is the production overhead, the selling and distribution overhead, and also the administrative overhead. We also talked about absorption costing and the three methods of absorption costing. We only touched two of the three methods of absorption costing, which is the overhead allocation method and the overhead apportionment method. We also solved examples under each of the topics. So here is the end of this particular session. Kindly watch out for this space, because in the next video, we'll be talking about the third method, which is the concept of overhead absorption. That's the overhead absorption method. Kindly watch out for this space so as to get more on cost accounting, accounting for overhead, and every other topics under cost accounting as a 6220. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel and also to turn on your notification box so as to keep receiving notifications whenever subsequent videos are being posted on this channel. Thank you very much for watching.